everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to session number 24.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I'm guessing your soccer game didn't go too well yesterday.
Football. It's called football.
Okay. Football.
Correct. I had a mishap.
You better explain it, yeah.
Medial meniscus repair. This is the third time we've done that together. I did my left knee in 2019. Terry did a knee right after I did mine. Right knee, and now this is my right
Now
knee.
he's got to imitate. We're imitating each other.
This happened yesterday, surgery. It'll be better tomorrow.
Yes. All right. In our last session, we were in the middle of letter number 42. We're still getting letters from Moria, but it's getting closer and closer to where KH is back in Earth mode now, since he's been away for almost 90 days, and is re-acclimatizing to being back on this planet Earth. And so Moria had been comparing the progress of Hume and Sinnett as far as being potential chelas, or lay chelas, as they will soon be called. And he was saying that there was a huge difference. He's saying, look in the mirror, the magic mirror of time, and look at the Mr. Sinnett from not quite a year and a half ago, and compare that with the Mr. Sinnett of today. And he said, you will see an enormous difference. Here's what he said where we ended up last time. He said, no, Sahib, the outside Hume is as different from and superior to the inside Hume, meaning that he's very well respected, very intelligent. To the outer world, he's the epitome of the educated Englishman. And he says that Hume, he is as different as the outside Sinnett is different from and inferior to the blossoming inside protege. So he's giving him some compliments here. Learn that and set the ladder to watching the editor, meaning the outer Sinnett, lest he play him a bad trick someday. Our greatest trouble is to teach pupils, not to be fooled by appearances.
AKA, don't judge a book by its cover.
And AKA, learn discernment. Discernment means that you're letting your higher self come into the picture and determine what is correct, what is useful, what is not useful, what should be got rid of.
Clear vision.
Yeah, clear vision. And it only comes when you are in tune with nature and in touch with your higher self. So let's pick up from there on the letter.
So we're right in the middle of letter number
42,
as we left off from the last session. As you have already been told by Damodar, I did not call you a chela. Examine your letter to assure yourself. I jokingly asked Alcott if he recognized in you the stuff of which chelas are made. You saw only that Bennett had unwashed hands, unclean nails, and used coarse language, and had, to you, a generally unsavory aspect. Was Bennett the student who was asked?
Bennett, remember, was the American who was put in prison for a year because he was teaching anti-Christian messages, none of which was false, but the Christians did not like that, and so they entrapped him into sending what were considered obscene materials in those days, which today no one would even blink at. And he got imprisoned for a year and had to serve the entire term, even though 100,000 people signed a petition to release him early, and the president of the U.S. wouldn't do it.
What about freedom of speech? Or is it slander towards the church? Is that what the problem
No,
was?
it was obscenity. So what they considered obscenity was anatomy of sexual parts that we would see in junior high school sex ed today. But in those days, absolutely no one except doctors were allowed to look at something like that.
So even in the United States, he was in prison.
Yes.
Wow, my goodness. But if that sort of thing is your criterion of moral excellence or potential power, how many adepts or wonder-producing lamas would pass your muster? This is part of your blindness. Were he to die this minute, and I'll use a Christian wording to make you comprehend me the better, few hotter tears would drop from the eye of the recording angel of death over such ill-used men as the tear Bennett would receive for his share. Few men have suffered, and unjustly suffered, as he has, as few have a more kind, unselfish, and truthful heart. That's all. The unwashed Bennett is morally as far superior to the gentlemanly Hume as you are superior to your bearer. It's very confusing the way he said all that, but it's eloquent at the same time.
To your servant, the one who carries your
to your bearer.
sedan chair.
Sedan chair. Oh my gosh.
So Bennett obviously didn't pay too much attention to hygiene, and of course the two Englishmen, and Alcott also as well. And Alcott was far less apt to judge someone like that than they were. But all three of them kind of looked at him askance, and Moria is pointing out that it's not the outward appearance that counts, it's what's inside. So you can dress up all you want on the outside, but that doesn't make you a different person.
We should also say that it's far easier to dress up on the outside.
Right.
It's easier, and many people think it's going to fool everybody, and it's just one more form of ego. I think Eckhart Tolle even says, if you look like a spiritual person on the outside, it's swapping out one egoic mask for just something that seems more highly elevated or sattvic, but it's still ego. If you're going to put a turban on and wear a gown and look like a spiritual person, it's just one more egoic shield or shell.
Yes, yes, exactly. A filter between reality and our perception.
What HPB repeated to you is correct. Quote, the natives do not see Bennett's coarseness, and KH is also a native, end quote. What did I mean? Simply that our Buddha-like friend can see the grain of the wood through the varnish and the, quote, priceless pearl within the slimy, stinking oyster, end quote. Bennett is an honest man of a sincere heart, besides being one of tremendous moral courage and a martyr to boot. Such our KH loves, whereas he would have only scorned for a Chesterfield or a Grandison.
And those were two well-known statesmen in the UK at the time who were highly regarded.
We didn't skip anything, did we? Because Bennett is now being brought in kind of randomly out of nowhere.
No, it's because he recently showed up in Tinevelle and was actually accepted as a member of the Theosophical Society. So he had met him just recently, and that's why he's saying, yeah, you were being very judgmental about him.
Okay. There's a moral smell as well as a physical one, good friend. See how well KH read your character when he would not send the Lahore youth to talk to you without a change of clothing. That's the guy. That's the guy that.
That's the one quite a while back. The Chela.
The actual Chela who showed up and he wasn't clean.
No, he didn't end up going because HPB knew that Sinnett would be put off by him, so she suggested, would you kind of like change your clothes? And he said, well, if you're going to require me to pretend to be something I'm not, then no, I'm not going to do it.
The sweet pulp of the orange is inside the skin, Sahib. I say again, the man is an honest man, not exactly an angel. They must be looked for in fashionable churches, but since angels are outside our cosmogony, we are glad for the help of even honest and plucky, though dirty men.
So what's more, a little bit of a hint here. The Mahatmas do not have to do with angels. Angels are highly evolved beings in the higher realms. The Dhyan Chohans, on the other hand, have everything to do with angels and every other realm of being, existence in the universe.
I think it's important to state, though, that he says angels are outside our cosmogony, meaning it's a different evolutionary path.
It is. And yet, the highest angels have also been through the human kingdom.
Our process, and I think we're going to get into that a little bit later, but humans' process of evolution goes through a specific process from the beginning of consciousness all the way up to adepts and beyond. But the angels or Devic realm it's sort of parallel, but it's not. They're not together. We don't evolve with angels. They're separate, even though there's some interaction. But it's a different species, if you will, right? They're
sort
not
of,
humans.
yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All this I say to you without any malice or bitterness, as you erroneously imagine. You have made progress during the past year, and therefore are nearer to us. Therefore, I talk with you as with a friend, whom I hope to finally convert to some of our ways of thinking. Your enthusiasm for our study has a tinge of selfishness in it. They've been saying that the whole time,
Yes.
to both him and Hume.
Yes.
Even your feelings for KH have a mixed character. Yeah, there's like a little bit of like, hey, why don't you show me all your secrets, dude? Why do you keep...
Yeah, they neither one of them has given up on the hope that they're going to learn some of these secrets.
Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, you are nearer. But you trusted Hume too much and mistrusted him too late. And now his bad karma affects yours to your detriment. Your friendly indiscretions as to things confided to you alone by HPB produces his rash publicities. This, I am afraid, must count against you. Be wiser in the future. If our rule is to be cautious with confidences, it is because you were taught from the first that each man is personally responsible to the law of compensation. That's karma, right? Mm-hmm. For every word of his voluntary production. That's brilliant.
And we learned before, it's not just actions, not just words, but thoughts, even those produce karma.
And intentions, yes, motives. Also, try to break through that great Maya against which occult students the world over have always been warned by their teachers. The hankering after phenomena, which is what we were just talking about. Phenomena meaning like magic. Like the thirst for drink and opium. Wow. It grows with gratification. Really? Like if you get some, you want more. Is that what he means?
Exactly, and that's exactly what they have found. They were hoping that by demonstrating some of the powers that come along with this development, that it would entice people to say, ooh, how are you different? What are you doing differently? And they found that people didn't care about the fact that it required purification first. They're just like, nah, we want to skip all that and just go straight to the phenomena. And the more they did for people, it was incredible. They never ever were satisfied. They would say, yeah, well, it could have been done this way, and I'm just not sure. Show me something else. Let me set the parameters. It has to be done my way.
They've said this to us many times in many letters. The reason that we're not just going to come out and show the world how magic we can be is because it will not satisfy them. No. They will want more. They'll have some kind of skepticism.
Or they will blame it on the devil.
Yeah.
You know, that's not from God, that's from the devil.
You're tricking us somehow. Arrest those men. The spiritualists are drunk with it. They are thaumaturgic sots.
Now, there's a word for you, thaumaturgic, and it simply means those who are taken by magic.
Those sot.
And sot, of course, is a drunkard, an alcoholic. So they're drunk with this need for spiritual magic.
If you can't be happy without phenomena, you will never learn our philosophy. It's kind of like saying if you can't be happy alone, you'll never find the right partner. It's kind of the same.
It's true. Happiness doesn't come from anything outside of you. It comes from right here.
Yes. It adds no force to our metaphysical truths if our letters are dropped from space onto your lap or come under your pillow. If our philosophy is wrong, a wonder will not set it right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what so many people ignore. Either what they teach, the philosophy part, is correct or it's not. If it's correct, it works. It explains numerous things in life that nothing else does. And if it doesn't work, then it's pretty useless except as a trinket to have fun with.
Why should we play with Jack in the Box? Are not our beards grown? He's saying we're adults. We don't want to.
Yeah, he says, why are you still playing with childish toys? You know, aren't we adults by now? Can't we leave those childish, silly toys behind?
You know, to our viewers, I hope you're seeing that the masters have spent so much of their time and energy saying this over and over again. And they're probably thinking to themselves at this point, we're not going to do this for much longer. We keep telling these guys the same things.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to stop at some point. They're not going to waste their time anymore.
And that's a very important point, which we're going to see. It'll take a while still. But they will work with anyone who shows promise. But if that person is not making serious progress, why would they keep trying over and over again when that person obviously either isn't ready for it or has other problems in their life that they're not willing to address and take care of, remove if necessary, like ego and prejudices.
The masters are doing such a gift by coming, quote, down to our level to give us help, but we have to go up to their level even more than they come down to ours, and if we don't, they're not going to sacrifice too much more. Okay, next paragraph here. And now it is time to put a stop to my abominable penmanship and so relieve you from the chore of reading it. Yes, your cosmogony, exclamation mark. Well, good friend, your cosmology is between the leaves of my Kudakapatha, which is my family Bible.
It's actually a Buddhist set of stories. They kind of consider it as scripture, especially among the lamas and the monks in Tibetan Buddhism. It's, I believe, 9 different stories that are kind of indicative of the life of a spiritual person who is following the path towards enlightenment.
And making a supreme effort, I will try to answer it as soon as I am relieved. For right now, I am on duty. That's interesting.
Ah, no. Yes, I think we've mentioned it before, how they have specific duties sometimes regarding any of their pupils who are in the outer world, including HPB. She's permanently in the outer world. Many of their other pupils live nearby, are trained by them, but they will venture out into the world from time to time for specific missions and for teaching. So they have to, whenever they are away from the ashram, someone has to be watching to make sure that nothing goes wrong. First of all, to protect them, and secondly, to make sure that nothing ever gets divulged that would be harmful in the wrong hands.
It is a lifelong task you have chosen, and somehow, instead of generalizing, you manage to always land on those details that prove the most difficult for a beginner. He's referring to Sinnett's question about cosmology? Cosmogony?
I guess that's what I would assume.
Take heed, my good sahib. The task is difficult, and KH, in remembrance of old times when he loved to quote poetry, asks me to close my letter with the following for you.
Now, this is just a little bit of a poem that was quite well known at the time.
Does the road wind uphill all the way? Yes, to the very end. Will the day's journey take the whole long day? From morn to night, my friend. Christina Rossetti.
And I don't know the poet. Her name is Christina Rossetti. But K.H. likes the arts. He likes music. He has an affinity for music and for poetry and for writing. He loves languages. And each one has their own predilections of things that are of interest to them. Moria says he is not the least bit interested in writing, but because K.H. asked him to, he quoted this poem for him.
Knowledge for the mind, like food for the body, is intended to feed and help to grow. But it must be well digested. The more thoroughly and slower, the better for both body and mind.
And this is important. This is why you can't ever gain instantaneous enlightenment. It is not going to happen. You get a little bit, and then when he's talking about it has to be digested slowly, you may learn one little thing, and it has to be applied in thousands of different parts of your life so that you can get it firmly fixed in your mind. When you learn a new process on a computer, for example, you don't know all the ins and outs immediately. You have to put it into practice. You have to see how it works in this area. How does it work in that area? Is there something else that I can use it for that no one else has discovered? It's all about assimilating this into your bag of tools that you have in life. And you can't do it without work. It's the lazy person is not ever going to make much progress on this path.
I want to tie this into physical yoga for a moment. A lot of our viewers probably practice asanas and what we refer to as hatha yoga, which is physical yoga, and tantra yoga, which is just the manipulation of energy. Tantra means energy management and movement. This chakra, which we are taught by these ancient wise yogis, their energy centers through the body, 7 major ones and a bunch of minor ones. And the Manipura chakra that exists somewhere around the belly, the solar plexus area, is designed to do this process of digesting. Yes. Physical foods are digested here scientifically. We know that Western modern science understands that the stomach and the intestines digest, as we're being told here, physical food into nutrients for the body. But that's not all that this chakra does. It also digests data that we intake from the world, and it helps do just what Terry said. It helps us learn to apply it. How do we take facts and figures and information and then use it put it into something practical in these thousands of different areas? When you work this chakra, it helps do that. That's exactly why these different chakras do different things. So the Manipura chakra, when you do breath of fire, when you do any type of twisting poses, if you're doing a side prayer twist or even a forward fold or a back bend, anything that activates this area, it helps with not only physical digestion of foods that you eat, but also assimilating facts and data so you can use it and learn from it. Just a little bit of how the physical practice ties into the Raja Yoga that we're learning here.
And when you combine that with meditation, it's what helps you attain contact with your higher self and increase that antakarana, which is the connection between the lower self, the lower mind, and the higher self. That antakarana at first is like a tiny thread. very, very difficult to make any kind of a communication. But as you work on that through meditation and the breath work and visualization, it becomes stronger and stronger and more reliable. And that's what we're after.
And we can work on all these things simultaneously to just increase in every way.
Yes, you don't pick one thing and learn everything about it, because they will point out their system is not a dissection where you take things apart and examine each one. It is a synthetic process where you learn one little thing, you pull it into the rest of what you know, and then you figure out how that works and how you can use that to increase your ability to learn new things and to more and more put yourself into alignment with nature. How does nature work? How does this work in nature? Let me put that tool to work in my own life.
That's very true. Last paragraph here. I saw Alcott and instructed him what to say to our Shimla sage.
And that's Hume.
Okay. If the old lady rushes into epistolary explanations with him, stop her, since Alcott already covered all the ground. I have no time to look after her, but I made her promise never to write to him without showing her letter to you first.
Remember that she had written a silly, childish letter to the newspaper, and so now they're trying to keep that from happening again.
She says
he ends.
He says, "Run it, have her run it by you."
Yeah,
you
exactly.
That's funny. And then he signs it, "Namaskar, yours M."
Yes.
And namaskar means like a bowing of gratitude or
the
acknowledgement. Yes.
Exactly. And namaskar or namaste are basically the same.
And now we come to letter number 43.
Yes.
We're still the same
This
month.
this is a fairly short one. He received a bunch of letters in January after a fairly long period of not receiving any. After the first set of notes that they received on cosmology, they, I guess, gave them time to digest that, and plus Moria was obviously busy with other things, so now he's kind of catching up.
Are cosmology and cosmogony fairly similar?
I don't know that there's any real difference. I think they're pretty much the same.
All right. Again from Moria. This is probably a few days later, same month, January 1882. I say again what you don't like me to say, namely that no regular instruction, no regular communication is possible between us before our mutual path is cleared of its many impediments. And he's referring to the fact that Sinnett is in the physical world mostly, and Moria and the masters are in the mental realm mostly, and one has to go towards the other to meet. The greatest being the public misconception about the founders. You cannot and will not be blamed because of your impatience.
Now, the Sinnett is very impatient, but and so are Alcott and Damodar and HPB. They're all chomping at the bit. You know, they get a little bit of information and they go for it. And he says, we're not going to be hard on you because of your impatience, because we recognize the reason for it.
But if you fail to make use of your newly acquired privileges, you would indeed be unworthy, friend. And what are his newly acquired privileges?
Well,
just the fact that he's in communication with
yes,
them? Okay.
They basically cut off Hume at this point because Hume told him, I'm not going to participate anymore. If you've got anything you want to reveal to me, let me know. And Sinnett still is coming up with questions. He's like, and they made it clear, we're not going to just teach you stuff that we think will be helpful to you. You ask us questions, you contemplate, think about it, figure it out in your minds, and then we will give you information based on those questions you come up with.
That's cool. In 3 or 4 more weeks, I will trade places with him whose place I could but very inadequately occupy For I am neither a scribe nor a Western scholar. So that simply means he's going to give the reins back over to KH.
Right.
But that doesn't mean Moria's going to go on his own retreat to some other...
No, not at all.
Okay.
In fact, he's going to continue for a while communicating, so both of them will work together in this.
Whether the Chohan finds you and Mr. Hume more qualified than he did before to receive instructions through us is another question. Oh, so he's mentioning that the Chohan was their boss.
Well, the Chohan has the final word. Remember, in the very beginning, KH had to travel to some location near Lahore to meet with the Maha Chohan and plead their case, and he somewhat reluctantly agreed to give them a chance. So he's always the one who decides whether or not this communication continues or whether it comes to an
I
end.
didn't realize that the Chohan at that time was in a physical body and
Yes.
chilling out somewhere.
No, they are mostly in physical bodies for quite a long time. Even we'll find out there are some quite high ones that are.
In the outer world, though, so back in the 1800s, in the outer world, the Chohan and these brothers, these masters, they were in India. The Chohan was a man doing things in the world. He had, maybe he was at a monastery, or he was probably
Most
revered.
Most
And
likely,
he might
I
have been
don't know for
revered
sure.
as some kind of spiritual teacher
Right.
by many people.
Right.
Wow. And he probably had a name. I'm sure most people at the time didn't realize he was the Chohan of the planet, or one of the Chohans on Earth.
Well, yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
There are other Chohans, but this is the one that deals directly with the Mahatmas.
But you ought to prepare for it, for much remains to come forth still. You perceived up until now only the light of a new day. If you try, you may see, with KH's help, the noonday sun at its meridian. But you have to work for it, work for the shedding of light upon other minds through yours.
And this is the key. This information is not for you. It's for you to assimilate, figure out, understand, and then use that to teach other people. Without that, there's no use for us to even share this with you. They're not interested in helping one single person. That they're looking for agents who are going to go out among the other people and share it with hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people.
How, will you say? Up till now, of you two, Mr. Hume was positively antagonistic to our advice. You, passively resisting at times, often yielding against what you conceived your better judgment. Interesting. See, they know the motives, and they know the internal
yes,
intentions.
they do. They see very clearly the difference between these two
Wow.
Englishmen.
That's my answer. The results were what was to be expected. No good, or at least very little, came out of such a spasmodic defense, the solitary defense of a friend presumably prejudiced in favor of those whose champion he had become and a member of the society. Mr. Hume would never listen to KH's suggestions of a lecture in his house, during which he might have well disabused the public mind of part of the prejudice, at least, if not entirely.
This is interesting. So, Mr. Hume, who was wealthy and had quite a mansion in Shimla and also owned a home in Allahabad, was asked about having a lecture at his home. And for whatever reason, he declined to do that. We see time and again, these guys miss out on opportunities that they're given.
The masters asked Hume to give a lecture?
Apparently.
To give a lecture,
Yes.
and he said no.
Well, to give a lecture, obviously invite friends
Yes.
and acquaintances, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah. You thought it was unnecessary to publish and spread among the readers as to who she was.
And I'm not sure what he's referring to here.
Maybe HPB?
It may be in defense of HPB, of what her position was with regard to them.
Do you think that Primrose and Radigan are likely to spread the knowledge and give out reports of what they know to be the case?
Now, Primrose was a major general in the British Army in what location? It was in, I forgot the name of the city, but it's in current day Afghanistan. So that was still part of the the British Asian contingency there in that part of the world. And he had a lot of influence, and he was interested in theosophy. But the other one was Radigan, who is one of Sinnett's bosses. And he definitely wasn't interested. He's like saying, do you think these two guys are going to publish this information? They're not.
Hints are sufficient for an intelligence like yours. I tell you this because I know how profound and sincere your feeling for KH is. I know how bad you'll feel if, when he is among us again, you find that communication between you has not improved. And it's sure to pass when the Chohan finds no progress since KH made him give you the chance. See what the fragments, the most superb of articles, has done, how little effect it will have unless the opposition is stirred up, discussion provoked, and spiritualists are forced to defend their foolish claims. And the fragments, of course, that's the column in the, which magazine?
The Theosophist.
Theosophist magazine, okay. Read the editorial in the Spiritualist of November 18th, Speculation Spinning. She cannot answer it as either he or you might, and the result will be that the most precious hints will fail to reach the minds of those craving for truth. For a solitary pearl is soon outshone in the midst of a heap of false diamonds, when there's no jeweler to point out its worth. I can already hear KH exclaiming, "What can we do?"
Yeah, it's an uphill battle that they're fighting, as they call it, a forlorn hope. They're dealing with a population in the world that is very materialistic in 1882, and compare that to 2024 when it is probably 5 times more materialistic now. Yeah. And you can see what they're up against. It's not very often that anyone is willing to give up that aspect of their life for something like this, which requires tremendous sacrifice, difficult work.
Was he hinting at the fact that the Chohan might say no more? He was hinting that.
Yes, exactly. No, they are laying the groundwork. There's like, they're saying straight out, we're watching carefully, we are being watched, and this could all come to an end at any time.
Right now in this letter, 43, how far through the book are we approximately?
We are not quite halfway, but we're getting close.
So we're not quite halfway through. We have a bunch more. Okay, so we're not in danger of being cut off just yet.
No. They don't get cut off quite yet.
Okay. And so it is, friend. The pathway through earth life leads through many conflicts and trials, but he who does nothing to conquer them can expect no triumph.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, obviously, right? We have to put in our own work, yo. Then let the anticipation of a fuller introduction into our mysteries under more congenial circumstances, whose creation depends entirely upon yourself, inspire you with patience to wait for and perseverance to prepare to receive the blissful consummation of all your desires. Mm-hmm. And for that, you have to remember that when KH shall say to you, "Come up hither," you should be ready. Otherwise, the hand of our all-powerful Chohan will appear once more between you and him. That's exactly. Okay, that's exactly.
That's the visual. Mm-hmm. The Chohan at any time could say, "Okay, that's it.
Enough. We're going to conserve our energy for other things that are going to be more bus." Exactly. Yeah. Stop. Send both portraits from Odessa back to HPB when you are done with them.
Remember, that was one of them, and I don't know which other portrait it was. It was her aunt that had sent them to Sinnett to use in her defense. And Moria is reminding him to send them back.
There are probably other portraits still in existence, right?
Yeah, there are.
Original at different various lodges around the world. And
there aren't a whole lot of actual photographic portraits of her. They're well known. They're all on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Write a few lines to the old generaless in Odessa, for I know she sorely wants your autograph. So Odessa is where HPB...
Where she was raised.
Where she was raised.
Yes. She was born not too far from Odessa on the Dnieper River. And the general...
the wife of a general, right?
Right. And Moria is making fun. He's like KH. He's, creating, inventing words.
And that would be her mother.
No, this is her aunt.
Her aunt, not her mother. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't know if the general her husband was still alive or if she was a widow. That I don't know.
Remind her that both of you belong to one society and are brothers, and promise help for her niece.
So one society, meaning the Theosophical Society, mm-hmm. and brothers, meaning at the time, everybody referred to any member of the society as a brother. Mm-hmm. So you're both brothers of the same society, and promise her some help for her niece. So
letter number 44. Before we start reading this letter, is there anything we should prep our audience for?
Yes. This is the promised second phase of the cosmological notes that they received several weeks before. Remember, I don't remember which episode it was. I think it may have been 18, but I'm not certain. Both of them, Sinnett and Hume, had written out a series of questions, and Moria had answered those questions for them. This time, Hume has kind of given up on this whole interest in cosmogony or anything else at the current time. And so these questions were all written entirely by Sinnett. And I don't know if he did it entirely on his own or if he consulted with Hume to some extent. He may have, but there's no indication that Hume had anything to do with it. So basically, it's a conversation between Sinnett writing the questions and Moria answering those questions. And this time, instead of them being so much questions, they are mostly statements of how he understands a certain aspect of this. And then Moria either explains more and says, you're correct, but you need this extra information, or he'll say, you're off base completely on this. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
All the information that these masters hold in their minds, it would be great if they gave it to humanity in like a easily understandable book. They tried that. They tried that a few times with HPB and with Alice Bailey. They tried that.
It's so comprehensive that, yes, you can do a very simple exposition of it. I think the best one is John Aljo's book. Mm-hmm. It's about 98 pages or something. What is it called?
Just the Basic Theosophy book?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
If you want a basic theosophy book, that is a very good one. And it's available from the T.S. Adyar Quest books.
It's called Theosophy, an Introductory Study Course.
So that is one way to at least get a basis of it. But if you go any further than that, it includes Raja Yoga, it includes so many things, cosmogony, anthropology, etc., etc. We're getting now the second installment of the outline for the secret doctrine, which is going to be written several years from now. So the first set of cosmological notes was the outline of the approximately 750 pages of Volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine. This is now the outline for the second volume, 800 pages of anthropology.
And of course, you can obtain the book, The Secret Doctrine, by Helena Blavatsky. Have fun reading it, though, if you want to try it. Yeah.
So the first volume is about the macrocosm. The second one is about the microcosm.
Letter number 44.
And there are 7 questions, so he answers each one seriatim.
All right, so I'll read Sinnett's questions slash statements that we were mentioning. 1. I understand that at the end of a Pralaya, which is the period of rest in a given system or process, the impulse given by the Dhyan Chohans does not develop from chaos a ring of worlds simultaneously, but one after another.
All right, so going way back, remember the circle of 7 spheres? I don't have the graphic right handy, but we'll put it in the video. Everything travels around that circle. So Sinnett is saying, I understand that they're not all created at once. One, the highest, is created, and then after a period of time, the second one comes into existence, and so on.
And we're no longer talking about what's going on in the Shimla Society or the Theosophist newspaper. We're talking about the creation of worlds now, so we're jumping into a very different subject.
Remember a couple of letters back, 3 letters back perhaps, when Moria promised, he says, I'll give you some more information about creation. And speaking of creation, I have to go create my dinner.
Yes, yes. Now we're talking about creating planets and solar systems and worlds.
Yes.
Sinnett goes on to say, I might understand better the manner in which each in succession follows from its predecessor if I wait until after I'm able to understand the working of the whole machine, the cycle of worlds, after all its parts have come into existence.
So he's saying, it's probably best that I don't focus too much on just one thing, because they're all interconnected and intertwined, which is right. It's a very complicated system. So this is what Moria replies to his question. Correctly conceived, nothing in nature springs into existence suddenly, all being subjected to the same law of gradual evolution. So evolution is just that. It evolves, and it's very, very slowly in most cases. There are parts of evolution that happen relatively quickly, but the whole process of a solar system, let alone a universe, happens over billions of years. So, yes, it takes time. Understand just the process of the Maha Yuga cycle of one sphere, and you have understood all of them. So remember, the Maha Yuga is one trip around these 7 spheres, from the most spiritual part down basically to the physical world we know now, and then it reverses back up through the same levels, but in the reverse order.
And the term yuga is actually used for other things too. It could be considered a different cycle within this cycle, but the cycle of the precession of the equinoxes as it relates to the rise and fall of physical planets and societies and civilizations on the physical planets, they all go through a cycle that could be referred to as yugas, with the Satya Yuga being the most spiritual and the Kali Yuga being the most material or the darkest or densest, and then there are Dwapara and other Treta Yuga. Treta. But the cycle, there are macro and micro cycles, just so we're clear that the word can be used, that word of yuga can be used to mean other cycles within this gigantic cycle we're talking about.
Understanding this concept of cycles is very important. We can talk about cycles that we do understand. The daily cycle. We have a pralaya at night when we're resting and unconscious, at least for part of it. And we have the most active part of it, which is basically what we're in right now with this cycle. But there's another cycle too that we can understand quite well, the seasons. Wintertime, everything is resting in repose. Nature is taking a break. But then in the springtime, it starts waking up. And by summertime, it's in full activity. By fall, it is slowing down and starting to draw back into where it came from in the beginning. And by winter, it's back in this period of rest, waiting for the next burst to happen, the next big bang.
Yeah.
All right, one man is born like another man. One race evolves, develops, and declines like another, and all other races. Nature follows the same pattern from the creation of a universe down to that of a mosquito. I love that. Nature follows the same pattern from the creation of a universe down to that of a mosquito. It never changes. There is nothing new under the sun. Even when the sun disappears, there's nothing new. A new sun appears after the old one explodes. So that's why when we talk about the birth of a new universe or a new solar system or a new planet, it's within its DNA, so to speak. It's not like someone has to reinvent it or create it, because it has happened nobody knows how many times before, billions, trillions, quadrillions. It's useless to speculate. So the pattern is already there. The materials already know the scenario. So it's going to happen no matter what. And it follows the same pattern. It's not all of a sudden going to take off in a different direction. So if you have any ideas about changing the universe to suit your own purposes, it's not going to happen. You may as well give up on that.
That's interesting that you say it'll happen no matter what. Evolution is natural.
Yes.
It's the way nature works. Something pushes it forward, though. I mean, there is a divine will.
Yes, exactly.
It's divine will. It's the will of the universe has intention to move forward. That's it, huh?
It's the equivalent of desire for us in the material world. It's desire that moves us forward, that makes us wake up every day and go to work and buy stuff and build stuff and learn stuff. It's that. There is a universal equivalent to that. And that's what it is. We want to put ourselves more into alignment with that universal will than with this desire, karma of the lower sphere. At least some of us. Many people aren't ready for that at all. They love this. They love the drama of everyday life. In studying esoteric cosmogony, keep a spiritual eye upon the physiological process of human birth. Proceed from cause to effect, establishing as you go along analogies between the birth of a man and that of a world. In our doctrine, you will find the synthetic method. You will have to embrace the whole, that is to say, to blend the macrocosm and the microcosm together before you are enabled to study the parts separately or analyze them with understanding. Cosmology is the physiology of the universe spiritualized, for there is but one law. So, we talk about how complicated it is to understand this, and yet, once we have connected and made that reliable connection to our higher self, to where we can call on it at any time, any day, all of this comes into comprehension much more easily. Yes, we can try to understand it and at least get a glimpse, a bit of understanding of how it works, but the real understanding will come later once we have got rid of our ego, got rid of our everyday desires to shine, to make people jealous. Once we connect with our higher self, everything gets easier. It gets extremely easy after that.
Here's Sinnett's second question/statement. Number 2. Taking the middle of a period of activity between two pralayas, for example, of a Manvantara. Do we want to define that? I mean, we've mentioned Manvantara before, but...
A Manvantara is exactly that, the period between two pralayas. So pralaya is the resting phase, the non-existent, in fact, to the point that there's nothing in existence.
Just potential existence.
It's nothing but a potential existence. And then Manvantara starts with the first breath.
The period of activity, basically.
And it increases until it reaches maximum.
Summertime.
Yes, exactly.
Or noon in a day.
Right.
Yeah.
And it decreases until it goes back into this unconscious resting phase.
Got it. Like sleep, like I was doing yesterday when they were operating on the...
Yes, you were in Pralaya.
It was dreamless sleep. It was...
Yeah.
Taking the middle of a period of activity between two pralayas, for example, of a Manvantara, what I understand to happen is this. Atoms are polarized in the highest region of spiritual flow from behind the veil of primitive cosmic matter. Wow, Sinnett this is... Mm-hmm. Okay. The magnetic impulse which has accomplished this result flits from one mineral form to another within the first sphere until, having run the round of existence in that kingdom of the first sphere, it descends in a current of attraction to the second sphere. I wonder why he's trying to understand all this. Aren't there other things that he should be trying to understand, like similar things? Like how does karma work? Like why do people suffer? Like this is...
It is interesting, and yet this seems to be what the Mahatmas have focused on anyway, because these are concepts that they first tried to expound on in Isis Unveiled several years earlier. And that was a haphazard sort of experience with mixed results. And they're hoping to redeem themselves, as we mentioned before, by coming out with a better exposition of these concepts. And they're hoping, they've kind of given up on Hume at this point, but they're hoping that Sinnett is still going to be the one that is able to do that for them. Let's see, where did we...
Number 2. So Moria's response.
All right, so he responds, they are polarized during the process of motion.
Meaning the atoms. Atoms are polarized.
Well, yes, and he's talking specifically about the minerals.
Oh, okay.
Because I guess we need to set the stage here. And I'm not sure how he came up with this information, except perhaps by... in discussions with HPB. On this first planet, right after the Pralaya, the first thing that happens is just barely one stage below pure spirit that is in Pralaya. That very first burst of energy, it can hardly be called a burst because it's extremely misty. It's very nebulous. It's an existence that is shadowy, ghost-like. And we're talking about only the minerals. We're not talking about any other form of life. And yes, minerals are a form of life. Let's back up 1 minute here to explain that there are, just as we explained in a previous episode, we talked about all of the atoms in a body, that once the prana is removed, the jivatma, the life force, they're nothing but a collection of atoms and molecules. There is no life to it. But it's the same thing with the planet. You don't have any further to look than at the moon at night, and you'll see that that is a dead planet. At one time, it had all of the life of a living planet like this planet Earth did. But now, the life force has been removed from it, and it is shrinking. It's dying. So that is what a dying planet looks like. And there's no, among the Maha Chohans, there's no focus on it. On Earth, there's all kinds of focus. This is a living planet because of that dynamic energy that they supply. So they are polarized during the process of motion and propelled by the irresistible force at work, fohat. In cosmogony and the work of nature, the positive and negative, the active and passive forces correspond to the male and female principles. Remember, just a short time back, he's talking about, compare the process of birth with that of a planet, a solar system. It's the same thing. So here's one more cycle, is the period between conception and birth. So, as he will point out here, it takes a male and a female. He's talking about here the concept of polarization. Polarization is positive, negative, male, female, light, dark. Any kind of contrast is this kind of thing. And as soon as you have the male aspect combining with the female aspect, you begin a new life. As soon as you have a positive force and a negative field in which it can operate, there's automatically a third principle that comes into play, and that is the offspring. That's why trinities are so important in symbology. You can't have a male and a female, but what there is a combination, a third aspect, creative aspect that comes into play here.
Yes, that's the same in any material system. The term hatha, as we mentioned earlier, hatha yoga, refers to this. Something in the physical world that you're pushing up against two things. That's the concept of physical movements or resistance. Anytime you move a muscle or you lift your own body weight or you take a breath in, something is pushing against something else to create friction, and the resulting energy that results from something pushing against something else or interacting with something else is the third aspect. the creation of the two. That's why Hatha Yoga is called that. That's what that means as well. Everything in the physical world is polarity with a third aspect too.
Mm-hmm. Your spiritual flow comes not from behind the veil, but is the male seed falling into the veil of cosmic matter. All right. Here again, male, female. So male being the highest, the spirit, and female aspect being matter. So it's all one, as we know. It's all spirit, or it's all matter, however you want to look at it. But once it separates, once there is polarity, then one takes on the role of the giver, so to speak, and the other is the field of reception. When you talk about, in spirituality, someone who is receptive, they are the negative. They are the one who is receiving something from some other source. So one takes on the giver, one takes on this receptive role. And it's interesting that the word mother is very much connected with the same root word that gave us matter. And in fact, it goes even farther. I don't know about other languages, but in Spanish, the word for womb is matrix.
Huh?
So you've got the matrix, and then you've got the force that falls into the matrix, so to speak.
Wow.
All right. The active is attracted by the passive principle, and the great Nag, the serpent emblem of the eternity, attracts its tail to its mouth. Now, let's see here. I think we've got something.
The Ouroboros?
I know everyone has seen this before. The snake eating its own tail, and this is what he's referring to. It's a very profound symbol. It is the head being the active part and the tail being the receptive. So this is a symbol of eternity, but it's also a symbol of activity in the world. And it never stops. It is continuous, and it is applied in so many different ways. So let's continue here. The active is attracted by the passive principle, and the great Nag, the serpent emblem of the eternity, attracts its tail to its mouth, forming thereby a circle, representing cycles in the eternity, in that incessant pursuit of the negative by the positive. Hence, the emblem of the lingam, the phallus, and the stais. So here is why in Hinduism and in many other spiritual cultures, they use these symbols for creativity, the lingam and the yoni, the phallus and the stais, which, by the way, is spelled C-T-E-I-S. And I believe that's what is used in Greek mythology or symbolism. So
in botany, they have the same similar words for the flower structures inside of a flower. What are the
the pistil
and stamen?
Stamen, yes.
Similar.
Well, let's see, stamen, pistil. I guess so, yeah.
Similar.
I think so. I don't remember my botany very well.
Phallus, pistil, stamen, stace. I don't know.
All right, so hence the emblem of the lingam, the phallus, and the stais. The one and chief attribute of the universe spiritual principle, the unconscious but ever active life giver, is to expand and shed that of the universal material principle to gather in and to make fruitful. You can't have one without the other. Unconscious and non-existing when separated during Pralaya, they become consciousness and life when brought together. Hence again, Brahma, from the root word brih, Sanskrit for to expand, to grow, or to make fertile. Brahma being but the vivifying, expansive force of nature in its eternal evolution. So, yeah, this is exciting stuff. Let's go ahead with number 3. That's a short one.
Okay. Do worlds of effects come between the worlds of activity in the series of descent?
Now, they pointed out that, yes, this is the way it works. A long time ago, when they first presented that diagram of the 7 spheres that form the circle, and he says the worlds of effects are not locus or places, they are the shadow of the world of causes. They're souls, worlds having, like men, their 7 principles which develop and grow simultaneously with the body. Thus, the body of man is attached to and remains forever within the body of his planet. His individual jivatma, life principle, returns after death to its source, fohat. Now, remember in the chart between the universe and man, we have all of these correspondences. So the prana, or jivatma in man, at death, leaves the physical body. And so the physical body of a human being returns to the earth, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, as the Bible says. So everything corresponds. So the life principle returns to, what did he say? It returns to fohat.
To its source.
To its source, which is the universal spirit, the vivifying universal spirit. Now, notice here that Morya has stopped using any of the Tibetan terms now. He's only using English and some Sanskrit words now. And I think they've determined that that's probably the best route to go from now on. And then he continues. The will, his Linga Sharira will be drawn into the Akasha. His Kama Rupa will remix with the universal Shakti. And see there where your Kama Rupa, being the desire on the physical plane, it goes back to the will force, or the universal energy. His animal soul, borrowed from the breath of universal mind, will return to the Dhyan Chohans. So we are literally the children of the Dhyan Chohans. His 6th principle, whether drawn into or ejected from the matrix of the great passive principle, must remain in its own sphere, the 6th being buddhi, either as part of the crude material or as an individualized entity to be reborn in a higher world of causes. The 7th, meaning spirit or Atma, will carry it from the Devachan. We're going to hear about Devachan in a future letter. The new ego to its place of rebirth. So, some very heavy stuff in this question number 3, in the answer to it at least. And we will pick up there in our next session, because we take some time to go over this 2 or 3 times. Listen to it, contemplate on it, meditate on it, and then we will pick up at the same point next week. And hopefully by then, we will have a better comprehension of that. So, yeah, all very interesting stuff.
Very interesting.
Any points, any comments on anything?
I'll reiterate what you said about maybe you rewatching the last 15, 20 minutes of this a couple times and thinking about these questions and answers a few times over, because one pass through is certainly not going to provide comprehension. It certainly didn't for me, or isn't for me.
No, it requires many times of going through it, and it requires, as Moria said, time in between to synthesize and to digest it.
Yeah.
So go over it. It may not make a whole lot of sense. Wait a few days, a few weeks, go over it again, do some study in the meantime, do some meditation on it. Some of the best insights come during meditation, especially if you, like Sinnett, have something on your mind, like, I'm like right there, I can almost comprehend this. Mm-hmm. And take that into a meditation with you, and you'll sometimes come up with some insights.
We should put a link to the PDF file of Algio's book in the description of this video. It's the short introductory theosophical text that Terry and I have taught and studied many times. There's a particular chapter in that, just probably 3 or 4 pages long, called The Plan and Purpose of Life. And that's a very much condensed kind of exoteric explanation of this.
Yeah.
That might help bring some light as well. So we can put a link to the PDF.
Okay. Let's remember to do that.
Sure.
All right. Anything else?
Until next week, we'll pick right up again.
All right. Thank you for watching. This gets a little bit intense, but don't despair. You can always come back a week, a month, a year later and review it. And every single time I review it, I get new insights. So it does take time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we will see you next time, and thank you for coming along.